for number 3, Nick and his friends rented a canoe for 3 hours and paid $45. How much does it cost per hour to rent a canoe? So that's what we don't know. Let's call that X. So cost per canoe. We know that he rented it for 3 hours, so the hours, okay, this is cost per hour. The hours and the cost are going to go together, so 3 and X, and we know the total was 45. So that would be your equation, 3X equals 45, divide both sides by 3. So that means it would cost $15 per hour to rent a canoe. Not in this case. Well, you could say the cost set is 3. Every hour it's 3. Number 5. Going back to graphing inequalities, so graph it like a normal equation. Start at -3. Your slope is -2, so go up to the left one as many times as possible. And down to the right one as many times as possible. Then the greater than or equal to means it's a solid line, so we connect all the dots. Draw arrows at the end. And then because it's greater than, this is going to be shaded above the line. So if I draw an up and down arrow at the y-intercept, up would be above, so this area right here. Questions on that or other shark bite questions? So, important date before we talk about the last lesson of the year. Yesterday was the deadline to finish objectives 3 and 4 if you want those replaced. So you can still finish that test, but they will no longer be replaced. Next Wednesday, you may have saw it in Canvas that it was Tuesday, but next Wednesday is the last day to do the last 2 objectives if you want those replaced. The last day to do test in general / retakes for Unit 8, Unit 9 is June 8th, which is a couple weeks from now, so not that much time. Your finals are on the board. I gave you guys final exam reviews last class. Next week, really for the rest of the year up until finals, we are just doing final exam reviews, so make sure you bring that moving forward to every class. Khan Academy, the last one is due next Friday. It's the last one of the year, and then you're welcome to go back and do the past ones up until the 8th. Questions on any of those dates? So everyone should have these notes in front of you. This is the second objective of Unit 10, the last unit we're doing, the last lesson for the year. This is very similar to what we did last class on absolute value equations, but now it's inequalities, so it's slightly different. Try again. 765. Miss Larson, could you get screen sharing? Thank you. I went to type it in and it was like too slow. Alright, so for these, we have to talk about the different cases first. with these cases, let's say you get these answers, unless you're working with Ms. Larson, you shouldn't be talking. So for this first case, we have a greater than or equal to. When we do this, we're going to drop the absolute value bars, keep the sign the same for one of your cases. For the second one, we're going to change the direction of the sign and make the 5 negative. So keep one exactly the same and then change the other one positive to a negative or vice versa, and directions. Then we can graph both of those. So this would be closed at -5 going to the left. This would be open, also closed at 5 going to the right. So this should look familiar because it's graphed just like our compound inequalities. So we could say this is an OR inequality, which means anytime you have greater than or equal to, it's going to be graphed apart. If we were to write the interval notation, we would look at words that start. It keeps going to the left, so it would start at -infinity. It would stop at -5. These are closed, so bracket. Write OR in between them. Starts again at 5, again closed, so bracket, and ends at infinity. So anytime the absolute value bars are isolated, your greater than or equal to will always be an OR inequality. Which means less than or equal to will be AND. And we would do the same thing. Keep it the same, drop the absolute value bars. X is less than or equal to 8. Then change it. Change the direction of the sign and make it negative. X is greater than or equal to -8. Then if we knew already it was an AND, we could just draw the line segment, but if we weren't sure, we could draw all of them. So X is less than or equal to 8 would be closed to the left. X is greater than or equal to -8 would be closed to the right. And we would see where those two overlap. At -8 and 8. So whether you do the arrows and then the line segment or just the line segment is really what's needed. Questions on those cases before I give you the explanation? You guys write this down. Oh, I forgot to write the interval notation for that one, but it was both brackets starting at -8, ending at 8. And then this means that absolute value inequalities are really just compound inequalities. So those of you who haven't done objective 4 yet, this should help you somewhat. It's really the same, but a little different at the same time. Where less than or equal to will always be and greater than or equal to will always be OR. The steps to solve are very much like your absolute value equations. Isolate the absolute value bars. Create the two cases. You can use what they have, this KISS method, or keep one the same. Switch the direction of the sign and the positive to a negative. Solve both, and then graph the solution and write your answer in interval notation. Anyone still writing this part down? So similar to, last class, I have questions in mind that I want to do, and then we can go over any of you guys want to do. And then you'll have time to practice, review, work on tests, work on retakes, all those things. So we may have time to do both of these, we may only have time to do one of those. So with this first one, because it's greater than, if I go back up, greater than is or. So because this is already isolated, this should also be an or case. So I'm going to drop the absolute value signs and make two cases. X minus 1 is greater than 6, and x minus 1 is less than negative 6. Then we're going to solve both, add 1s to both sides. So we have x is greater than 7, and x is less than negative 5. And then we could graph both. So x is greater than 7 would be over here, open to the right. X is less than negative 5 would be over here, open to the left. It's an or, so it's supposed to be graphed apart. And then the interval notation, look at where this starts. It keeps going to the left, so it starts at negative infinity, stops at negative 5, it's open, so parentheses, right or in between, starts again at 7, so parentheses because it's open, and ends at infinity. Do we have any questions on that one? The next one, since it's less than, that should be an and. It's already isolated, so drop the absolute value bars and set up your two cases. X plus 2 is less than or equal to 7. And x plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 7. Subtract 2 on both sides. So x is less than or equal to 5, and x is greater than or equal to negative 9. Because it's and, it should be a line segment, starting at the lowest point, negative 9, ending at the highest, 5. With a line in between. If you weren't sure, you could regraph it. So x is less than or equal to 5 would be closed to the left. X is greater than or equal to negative 9, closed to the right. And you can see that's where they overlap. Then your interval notation, these would both be brackets starting at negative 9 and ending at 5.